Hello, this is Mary Jo Fox, and I'd like to share with you information that's been updated for the second grade Rigby and QRI assessments. You might wonder, why make changes? Well, this year, past year, in 2014-15, we received feedback from the classroom teachers on the MTSS team that many of the students when they got to second and third grade were very familiar with the QRI passages. And when we went and did a data analysis of that QRI usage, what we confirmed was that was exactly the case. Many of our high-flying kindergartners and first graders had seen that QRI passages Form B multiple times. So our purpose for the change is for our assessments to provide the most accurate information possible. Well, what are those changes? Well, we now have some different titles for QRI Form B. There are also some additional different titles for Form A and C also. We've also identified a threshold as to where to stop testing. Included in the screencast is also information on how to communicate information about the student's reading level to parents. And just as an FYI, there is going to be limited use of QRIs in first grade. They'll only be using it at mid-year and end of year, and they will not be using Form B either time. And then in kindergarten, they will not be administering any QRIs. All of the information that I'm going to be sharing with you is found in the district guidelines packet that was delivered to you on August 7th. What I'd like for us to start with is that protocol, and our protocol for both the Rigby benchmark and the QRI assessments will stay the same. When we're going to administer the QRI, what we're going to be doing is, again, as we always have done, start out by reading that one-sentence introduction at the top of the page to students and reminding students that you'll be asking them comprehension questions. We'll use our same district coding conventions, the ones that you'll find on page 8, to record the students' reading behaviors. As the students are getting ready to read, we'll set a timer so that we're able to identify the number of minutes and seconds it took the student to read. And what you'll notice on page 5 is that the time limits for reading each of the text is found for you. So you've got what are the time limits for Rigby, what are the time limits for QRI Form B, and what are the time limits for QRI Form A, which you'll be using at the end of the year. For the passages that have remained the same, there have been no changes. We've only gone and made changes for the new passages that we've added. As always, you'll be remaining silent as the student is reading. There'll be no prompting. If a student's stuck on a word, you'll just say, give it a try, or if they are totally bogged down, telling them to skip it. If the student reads the same word incorrectly more than 2 times, you'll only count the first 2 as errors. And if the student reads a name incorrectly, it's not counted as an error. If the student skips a line or a page of text when reading, we don't intervene. You let the student continue reading, and you don't show the student the place. You count it as 1 error per line skipped or 1 error per page skipped. The place where the student gets penalized is in that comprehension piece because they won't know the information from the part that they've skipped. There will be no strategy talk or discussion of the decoding errors after the student is done reading the QRI passage. After the student has finished reading the passage, you'll say, are you ready for the questions? If the student's response is yes, you remove the text and then begin asking the questions. If the student's response is no, then you allow the students to reread the passage. As a teacher, though, you can't signal or give kids any prompting to say no so that they can read it twice. When the reading is completed, you'll remove the text. The students must respond to the questions without looking back at the text. When asking the questions, read the questions to students exactly as stated on the sheet. The question may be repeated, but you may not clarify it or paraphrase it, even if it is for an ELL student. If the student's response isn't one of the answers given, record what the student says. If the student provides a partially correct answer, it's appropriate to say, "Can you tell me more?" and then write TMM, tell me more, next to their response. This should only be used when warranted and not to lead the student to a correct response. When you're going to score, refer to the passage to see if the response that the student gave is substantiated with information for the text. It doesn't have to be exactly what's stated on the answer sheet, as long as you can see the backup for it, the evidence for that response in the text. There should be no strategy talk or discussion of comprehension errors after the questions have been asked. You will continue testing with the next level until the student's accuracy is below 90%, comprehension is below 75%, or exceeds the time allotment. Or another piece is reaches the threshold for second grade. At the beginning of the year, you will stop at QRI 4. At end of year, you'll stop at QRI 5. We'll talk more about that a little bit later in the screencast. For your Kansas reading only, if only one area, either comprehension or accuracy, is below the criteria, you continue until it is below that criteria for 2 consecutive passages. The student's reading level is the highest level that was 90% or above for accuracy and 75% or above for comprehension, and within the time allotment. Just switching hats now to Rigby. For Rigby only, on those passages, the books where the books are longer than where the running record ends, you should have the students stop reading where the running record ends, even if they haven't finished the entire book. Those comprehension questions are just from the parts of the story that the student has read up to that point. After you're done asking the questions, the student can flip through the book to see how the story ends. But as a teacher, you shouldn't give them any information about the end of the story. As I was mentioning before, there is a threshold for where to stop testing. For the Fall Kansas Reading Assessment, don't go beyond QRI 4. And with that, you're going to be using Form B. For the end of the year, don't go beyond QRI 5, and that's Form A. We have a special reason for this. As we are going and we are working with our new standards, they really call us to go deeper with comprehension. By knowing that a student is at a QRI 4 at the beginning of the year, we have got a sense that this student is considerably above grade level, and it would be warranted to go and use the high achieving reader materials or complex picture books or informational text. And so our goal isn't to try to push the students up through those QRI levels, but rather to go and to help the students to dig deeper with their comprehension. On the recording sheet, what you're going to do is record the highest passing level scored by the student. The passing criteria is the student reading 90% or above for word accuracy and 75% on comprehension and within the time allotment for the passage. You might say, what do I do for record for those students in the fall who pass the QRI 4? What you will record on your form is the terminology at or above QRI 4, because that's what we know about the student. At the end of the year, for the students passing QRI 5, you'll record at or above QRI 5. Second grade expectations. The second grade expectations have not changed. What we still expect is at the beginning of the year, a student would be considered below grade level if they're performing at a QRI 1 or below. They would be considered on grade level if they pass a QRI 2, and they'd be considered above grade level if they pass a QRI 3 or above. At the end of the year, the student would be considered below grade level if the highest level that they pass is a QRI 2 or below. They're considered on grade level if they pass a QRI 3, and above grade level if they pass a QRI 4 or above. Something else that is new is communication with parents. In your written or verbal communication with parents, please don't share the actual Rigby benchmark or QRI reading level. Just identify for parents if their child is reading on, above, or below the grade level expectation. If the parents want more information, show them a copy of the text that's considered on grade level. As we are just getting started with this year, I expect that we're going to have some parents that are adamant with wanting to know their child's reading level because they've been able to learn that in the past with their children who have been in second grade previously. If you are in a situation like that, suggest that the parent visit with the principal and let the principal just go and explain why we have moved to this. If you have any questions about any of this, please visit with your building IRT or your second grade IRTs, either Sandy or Lisa. But always know that I am available and am always there to support you with any questions you have. Please feel free to email me or give me a call at the IRC. Thank you so much.